All right. Hi, everyone. My name is British Griffiths, and I'm a part of the SIFPEC support team. Welcome to day one of the 2025 Supplier Development Summit hosted by the Good Food Purchasing Initiative team. Together with our partners, we're working to make Chicagoland's food system more equitable and transparent, centered on food that's local, sustainable, fair, humane, and nutritious. That means shifting how institutions buy food through the Good Food Purchasing Program while also uplifting suppliers with resources and gatherings like the summit. Thank you for joining Marketing Essentials for Scaling Your Food Business featuring Erica Tebbins. And I will hand it over to Erica.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and for having me back. I'm really excited to share this today. And if the folks that are able to tune in live, if you can just tell me in the chat, what it is that you are currently selling, that would help then, especially when we get to the Q&A portion. So, yes, this is marketing essentials for scaling your food business. And I work at Taste the Local Difference, which is a local food marketing agency that specializes in effective strategies for agriculture, food, and beverage producers. And this is our 21st year in business. And we believe in uplifting these purpose driven and passionate entrepreneurs to tell their stories, find loyal customers, and build successful, well connected businesses because we believe that strong, vibrant, thriving, local food communities and like local food systems really help to uplift their communities and their regions as a whole. So we love being able to support that with marketing services and education like I'm doing today. A little bit about me. I am the director of impact here. So I have the very cool job of working with a lot of our food system partners from coast to coast. I also have over 20 years experience running businesses of all kinds and sizes myself as an entrepreneur. I'm an expert in sales and marketing strategies for micro enterprises. So I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, helping them to design their own sustainable growth strategies. And has been one of the businesses that I have run. That's what I was doing before I joined the team at TLD. I'm also a former farmer and beekeeper. I'm a food access advocate and a local food enthusiast. So I really understand, everyone who is joining us today. Basically, I get you. I get what you're doing. I've been there and I know how to help, and I can easily give you a lot of tailored advice. It's stuff I love to geek out about. So, first and foremost, it's really important to know why marketing matters when you are scaling and why it should not be an afterthought. So, first, you have to start thinking of it as part of your product and it should reflect the same care and craftsmanship as your product. I know that whatever it is that you are growing or making, you put a lot of time, energy, attention, care, and money already into, and you're really proud of it, right? You probably know that it is the best and it's something that you're really proud of. And your marketing, once you are moving into wholesale, your marketing needs to reflect the quality of your product because typically when you move from a direct to consumer model into more of a wholesale model is you are going to be making the sale with the wholesale purchaser, and then that wholesale purchaser is going to be selling your product like on your behalf, right? And so you won't be able to be there as if you would at, let's say, a farmer's market where you could be engaging with a customer. You could be telling them all about how you make your product, what goes into it, all of those different things, right? You're just getting a person who is walking by shelves with probably a lot of other similar products, and your product needs to stand out and speak to them, right? They're making a lot more quick purchasing decisions and things like that. So your marketing is going to be doing that communicating for you. So things to consider. buyers are going to be looking for consistency, professionalism, and trust. And trust is the thing that is most needed before any one of us spends a single dime on anything in our lives. We have to trust that it is worth spending our money on, unless it's, the electric bill we have no control over. It's just one of those things that comes with, being an adult in the world. But when it's something that, we're choosing to purchase, we're choosing to spend our money on, we are only spending money with businesses that we trust or products that we trust are going to get us a result or going to be worth it. Also, strong branding communicates product quality before somebody even tastes your product. And then marketing systems that you set up or you hire others to set up for you and then show you how to use are going to save you time and make ordering easier on your buyers, which is a huge win overall, both for you and for them. And I have a case study that is really going to show you how that works. So I'm going to take you through more detailed examples of all of these in this session. So, first up, it's really, really, really important to match your brand to your buyers. And one thing I want to point out is that it is ultimately essential that you need to feel good about your brand. At the end of the day, it is your business, it is your passion. You are putting a lot of heart and soul and time and investment into it. So you have to feel good about it. But, and also, you also have to make sure that it is going to resonate with your target market. And this is something that is really important to consider. And it's important to consider uh, first, where you kind of like your long range goal, right? Where you would ideally like to start moving into when it comes to scaling. And this could be very different for everyone who is watching this, and that's a-okay. And you might have a few different types of avenues that you want to explore or want to have your products in, right? But depending on who is going to be purchasing and where it's going to be sold and all of that is going to inform your brand and also your packaging. So, first up, think about who those wholesale partners might be. Do you want it to be restaurants? Do you want it to be very like large chain retailers, small specialty retailers, something else entirely, a combination, etc. Then you can think about tailoring your packaging and your marketing tone to match their expectations, of course, without sacrificing yours. So you can still stay true and authentic to the core identity of your brand while making sure it's going to fit what will work with their needs too. And then think, what would make my product stand out on their shelf? And it's also okay if you don't know, like if you don't have all the answers to that, that's where branding experts come into play, right? And a good idea is to just get curious. We could talk more about this, towards the end of this in Q&A, but get curious, look around, do some market research, and see similar products in similar types of locations where you want your products to be. And just take some notes about other types of products and what their brand looks like, the vibe it gives off, what their packaging and their labeling and all of that looks like. And then see from there if you get any ideas of how you might want to be different. Then you're going to think about the packaging itself. Again, you want it to align with your target market and your sales outlets. Now, this is going to be one of those things that is an upfront cost. And for many of you, you probably already are very familiar with this based on what you're selling and where you're selling. But things to consider when you're looking at different packaging are both the like initial cost, but also like, the ROI, which stands for your return on investment, right? So how much is it going to like how much are you going to be able to recoup of that investment from the fact that you will be able to potentially sell more of a product because it's in a certain type of packaging, or because the fact that it's in that type of packaging, you'll be able to sell it to a certain type of wholesale vendor, right? Or, different types of configurations, right? How quickly you're going to get that investment back potentially because you have packaged your product in a certain way for a certain vendor. And you may actually find, depending on your current goals and objectives and products and quantity and various factors, that certain packaging is completely unnecessary for you at this stage. And that's better to find out now than willy-nilly buying a bunch of packaging, spending a lot of money with a designer, getting labels printed and all of that, only to find out later that you didn't need it in the first place. So this is where it's good to do some preliminary research ahead of time. And once then you know what is going to make the most sense for what you are doing as you scale, then you can work with a designer that is experienced in packaging design to make sure that your design fits in the packaging parameters and it can look as nice as possible so that you can get that highest ROI possible. And lastly, if it makes sense based on where you want to be with your product as you scale, one thing that you can check with those, like especially if it's a retail outlet, is you should ask, hey, is it helpful or will you utilize it if I get things like shelf talkers, bottle tags, or other display graphics, if I get those made and produced and I have them delivered with my products, will you actually utilize them? Because if so, if they are found to be helpful, if they drive sales, then again, this goes back into that ROI conversation, right? If you spend a little money to get these extra sales assets designed and made in your beautiful branding, and if the store is going to actually utilize them and it will help your product sell, then it will probably be worth it. If the place is like, no, they'll just sit in the, back room somewhere, or we found that they haven't been helpful or whatever, then certainly it's not worth spending the money on. Or also, if you are a grower, like a produce grower, and what you want to move into is more like, hospitals or large cafeterias, like, um, different types of like schools or restaurants or anything like that. And all they really want is just sort of like large crates of product, and they're not trying to like sell it or pass it on. They're just literally buying in large wholesale quantities from you. Then you likely don't even need to worry about a lot of this anyways at this point. So next up is going to be your supplementary marketing assets. Some sales asset considerations to have on hand to help close more sales with more wholesale buyers are some pitch email templates that are in your brand. Actually, like any of these things, it's a good idea to have them branded. And what I mean by that is I'll actually go back a slide. So if you'll see here how Lakeview Hill Farm has, you can clearly see these are all in the same brand, right? They're all the same uh, font. You can see at the top, there is their logo, and then there's the same font. And even though they're in slightly different colors, they're all relatively in that like faded color palette, right? It's very cohesive. And you can see in the clamshells, if you were walking through and you saw them all on this cooler shelf, you would be able to tell, even without reading at the top, that they're all from Lakeview Hill Farm. Your brain would say, oh, yeah, that's all. Obviously, it's all from the same business, right? Because it's all in the same branding. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about branding. Okay. So, any of these things, it's a really good idea to have all of your assets be branded. And when you have your brand professionally designed, your brand designer should give you a brand kit that has all of the assets in it for you. So your logo files, your font files, your color files, everything ready to go. And that way you can either create yourself, like in Canva or other platforms, these different assets, or you can have a designer do them for you. But pitch email templates, that would be things where you have some set templates that say different things for different potential types of buyers, that you modify them a little to make them a bit more personalized so they don't just read like cold, spammy emails. But it can save you some time. So as you're going through and you're trying to do outreach to get new wholesale accounts, it looks very professional. It looks very trustworthy, and hopefully gets you some more opportunities to actually connect, right? To actually set up a meeting or a phone call to talk to that potential buyer. Then there are sell sheets, which is on the right here. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Also, things like having contract templates and a DocuSign platform account ready to go can be really helpful. This is going to streamline the process so that as you get those yeses from your new wholesale accounts, you can be ready to go with sending those things over. Also having an invoicing system and then a delivery system in place if that is something that you will have on offer. And as I already mentioned, having everything ready to go for pitching those new accounts and getting contracts signed quickly is going to it's going to be really helpful for you. It's going to make the buyer very appreciative, and it's also going to signal to them like, oh, this is somebody that I am going to uh I'm going to appreciate working with them because they are on top of it. They're professional, they know what they're doing. This is going to be a great working relationship. So with your sell sheet of your wholesale pricing, so this is one that we had designed. So you want to make sure that it is visually appealing and in your branding if possible, like I already mentioned. More so than just having a plain old like list of what you have with the prices, right? Obviously, you could do that in any sort of like Google Doc or anything, but it is really nice to have more than just a list of here's what I have, here's the pricing, and here's my business name. You can see here that this type of sell sheet with the photo, with the branding, it's has a little bit more design to it. It just adds a little bit extra to the experience if you think about it from the buyer's side, and it makes you stand out as a potential um you know somebody that they're going to be purchasing from, right? A potential supplier. And then your website as well. So this isn't to say that, everyone needs a website or that you can't start wholesaling if you don't have one. You certainly can. However, it is something that is worth looking into, especially if you have something like a prepared product, right? Again, if you are just looking into selling large quantities of like wholesale greens to institutions, would be less necessary, right? But if you have a specialty product, like I know, let me scroll back up here in the chat. So we have a honey producer, we have some handmade soaps, lavender, and then let's see what else. Yeah, blueberries and lavender. Perfect. Yeah. So if you have any specialty product, a website can be really, really helpful. And when it's user friendly and again, branded, you're going to hear me say that word a ton, it really builds a lot of credibility. You can also include wholesale information and really clear product descriptions. That is going to help a ton. Highly recommend. Actually, we were just talking. We just had a sales call with a yogurt farm in Vermont that wants to expand their wholesale accounts. They have a really strong wholesale business, and they want to expand it even further because they have new equipment that has allowed them to increase capacity. And so now they want to expand their accounts to match their capacity, which is really great. And one of the things that we recommended is on their site is having this extra page that we could help them build that is has more information specifically for wholesalers, right? So that when they are doing outreach, when they're telling people, "Hey, are you interested in, partnering with us?" Like supplying our products, that it's easier for those folks to get the information that they need quickly. It's easier for them to fill out like a informational contact form and various things all right there. They don't have to hunt for it, right? Um, and then also we were telling them some things about having different product descriptions, different info about like specs, like the different sizes, the different flavors. Again, all of that is just going to make it so much easier on that purchaser, the one making the buying decisions. And then any e-commerce integration will simplify reordering and increase efficiency. And you'll see an example why in just a minute. You can really think about your website like a digital showroom. So that when you are talking to somebody, that when you are sending those pitch emails and then they go to check you out, so they're like, I don't know about this business, right? So someone in the chat just said that they have teas and seasonings. Great, right? So you might be sending an email saying, "Hey, this is my business. I have teas and seasonings. I would love to carry them in your store." That person's going to go to your website and check you out. And so you can think of it like this beautiful digital storefront where they are going to get that first experience with your business. And here is an actual example of how this can work. So IA runs Sticky Spoons Jam. That's the name of IA's business. And Sticky Spoons is based out of Niles, Michigan. So Southwest Michigan, not too far from Chicago. And Sticky Spoons Jam, one of the things that is a priority is utilizing a lot of Michigan produce in the product and really being able to support a lot of Michigan agriculture, a lot of Michigan farmers and producers, and then also hiring from the local community to help uh, produce the jams themselves. So sourcing 95% of fruits from small family owned farms within a 30-mile radius, which is very, very, very cool. And we got to work with IA because IA was part of MSU Product Center's Center for Regional Food Systems. They had a program called Food Spice and sent IA to us with a stipend to be utilized on marketing services. And we used the stipend on IA's website and for e-commerce setup. So we zhuzhed the website. We made sure that all of it was synced up with the inventory in the back end. So as stuff was selling in real time, the website would stay accurate and current. And so that was really great. We made sure it looked really, really, really beautiful. Now, IA is really, really, really good about reaching out to local potential wholesalers and pitching on the jam and why those wholesalers should partner and stock the jam. And the great thing is that since IA is doing that, then when they go to the new Sticky Spoons website, they see it and then they're blown away, right? So shortly after launching the new site, IA went from having 7 wholesale accounts to 23. And so that, a huge jump in a short amount of time. And then once those wholesale accounts, become active wholesale accounts and they're selling, then they can reorder very easily because they can see the inventory in real time. So this is one of those sales systems I mentioned at the very beginning, right? So before, I was having to spend a lot of time going back and forth answering a lot of like email questions and order processing and all of this stuff so that telling them, hey, like they would ask, what do you have in stock? I would have to give them a whole list, all of this stuff, and then they would go back and forth. Then I would have to write up this invoice, be this whole process that some of you might be experiencing right now. But once we were able to sync everything, they could just go on the website and see in real time, oh, this is what is in stock, and then send IA an email and say, this is what I would like to reorder in this amount of quantity. And then I just makes up the invoice, sends it over, they pay, and then it gets out the door. Easy peasy, right? So because of all of that, Sticky Spoons Jam was able to have a 17% increase in revenue since launching the website. And that was within like, I think it was the first year of launching the website, or maybe just under a year after launching that website, which then meant that I no longer needed to actually attend in-person markets to make sales. So a few other people were going to the markets instead, were able to be able to pay to go to markets in place of IA. And then I was also able to afford to increase production and hire more local folks to make more jam. And then increased production meant that more purchasing was made from local farmers, which supported that local economy. And then also, there was more time to invest in creative collaborations with local breweries, tea companies, restaurants, and retailers because Sticky Spoons uses a lot of like local products from local distilleries and breweries and these other places, and then uses those um, products, like collaboratively made products, then go back to those places and the products get wholesaled, right? So if it's like made with a locally made like gin or a whiskey or something that is mixed in with the fruit and turned into a jam, then that person also, or that business also becomes a wholesale client. So it becomes this really cool circular economy. As it happened, we were able to connect IA to MEDC, which is Michigan's Economic Development Corporation. They have this Voices project. They did this big feature on IA, which was really cool. Then Michigan's Governor Whitmer, did a shout out last Black Friday on Threads on social media, which increased visibility and sales for IA. And surely because I had this beautiful branded packaging, a really high quality product, and then this success story, right? It got uh the success story got visibility. It was sort of like worthy of the visibility of the highlight. And then that visibility got more eyes back on the product and the cycle continues, right? So this is a really cool way of demonstrating just how powerful these small marketing shifts can be when you are moving into scaling. Another thing to think about, kind of as I already mentioned a little bit in the story with IA, is in securing ongoing revenue, it's also important to make sure that that process is sustainable for you. So we talked a little bit about, how the inventory was all synced up and everything. And again, based on whatever it is that you are selling, that you are producing, who you are selling it to, all of those things, that might not, you might not need to think about that quite yet. It might not be something that you need to invest in just yet. Having that branded sell sheet at this point in time that you can go in and edit and update on your own might be a-okay. And that's fine, right? Because not all businesses are going to be the same. But it's a good thing to think about in advance what is going to be sustainable for you for reordering. And also just know that you can only do your best guess at first, and this might change over time because you might do your best guess now and then realize, like, oops, this is not actually working very well, and I need to change it up, and I need to communicate that change and move forward from there. But first up, think about your production capacity, right? You never want to overpromise and underdeliver, right? Uh, if anything, we would rather, underpromise and overdeliver to make for happy customers. So just, make sure that you are being realistic, especially at first, especially as you are getting into a flow of scaling up, because a lot of times as you are scaling, and I say this again as somebody who has been an entrepreneur myself and worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, new challenges arise. Even though it's exciting, it's a really like exciting opportunity. New things come up that you don't anticipate, right? And so then you have to problem solve those things, right? So just give yourself a little bit of extra space in there as the scaling is happening, right? So think about your production capacity and give yourself some margin. And also think, do you want your vendors to be able to reorder anytime or only at certain times? And depending on who you are going with, who you are choosing to have as, wholesale vendors, they might have very rigid schedules that they have to order on. And again, this is where it's important to do a little bit of market research, a little bit of due diligence at the beginning, and uh, figure out who is going to be best for you at first to move into as like a wholesale client as you are scaling. Because again, if it's an institution that's like, we need this mass quantity and we need it every single week, and that is going to be too big of a strain for you right now, that could be a goal to grow into, but perhaps not right in this moment, right? But then once you decide on your reordering schedule, it's good to think about how you are going to communicate this. And you might be thinking, I am already very busy. I do not want to be stuck at the computer answering a million emails or doing all this extra admin. The great thing is things like having an email marketing platform allow you to be able to set up and schedule things like you can have, again, branded, templated, automated emails that you set and schedule in advance that go out to those folks. So it's going to save you time and it's going to keep that communication consistent. So maybe you need all orders in by Wednesday morning for a Friday delivery. So maybe you have an automated email that goes out on, Sunday, and another one that goes out on like Tuesday as a last call reminder for Wednesday. And then once you have packed up on, Thursday evening or whenever it is, you send like a automated email that says like, okay, it's, your items are packed and we will be delivering between this window on Friday, right? Again, once you have that all set up, it's really easy to have this automated, and that way it will help you get more consistent revenue because you won't be waiting on yourself to hopefully have time and to remember to sit down and manually send those emails, the emails will just go out on their own. And then again, syncing the inventory across your e-commerce and invoicing software will help as well. And then, kind of like I already mentioned, but the automated email sequences, both for order confirmation and delivery reminders, but also reorder nudges and seasonal promos. And what those reorder nudges might be is that could be if you don't have the type of product where somebody would be ordering like every week or every other week, you can have a different cadence that you set up as a reminder to reorder. And then you can also set and schedule if you have seasonal promotions. So, right now, a lot of the folks that we do business with have specialty seasonal flavors and products and gift sets and different things that they are creating for the holidays. And if they sell to wholesalers, they also need to make sure that they are communicating that to those wholesale buyers as well, so they know all the details that they need to know so they can purchase a quantity and have it in store too. And then as we start to get closer to the end here, speaking of seasonal marketing strategy, some things to consider are planning some quarterly or seasonal campaigns that will align with the needs of your buyers. Again, if you are at this stage doing more of, selling bulk produce to an institution, this may not come into play where you're necessarily doing like a promo type thing. But it could be good to think about as you are thinking in advance with those institutional buyers, you know, with the holidays or with different things, are there different products that they need or that they want at different times of years based on the menus that they create that you could fit into what you are producing? And also, are there different quantities that they might need as well? So you can have that good, strong partnership and plan ahead for that. But otherwise, think about, again, going back to some of those additional assets, like the shelf talkers or the other visual assets, asking, when are you putting out your holiday displays? When would I need to get that to you? Because as we all know, it seems like holiday marketing is getting earlier and earlier and earlier, right? So you might be thinking, oh, I have plenty of time. Actual Black Friday isn't for weeks. I have plenty of time to get them, what they're going to need. And you might not realize that maybe because sales are slow, have decided to bump up their whole Black Friday promotional timeline. And it would actually help if you got them some of your marketing assets earlier, right? So just some things to think about in advance. Also good to think about highlighting new products, limited runs, or any of those promotional windows that you want to be doing as well. Communicate any of those things if you have seasonal flavors, specialty items, limited edition, any of that. And keep consistent visuals and messaging across all of your channels. So even if you look at what we are doing now in some of our marketing, we have a holiday gift guide that we are doing. Even though all of our marketing clientele is like nationwide, we also have a separate niche of the business that is focused on folks in Michigan and like supporting Michigan businesses where we were founded. And so we do a lot of like media and promotion that uplifts local Michigan food businesses. And so our marketing for that, for our holiday gift guide, the visuals are slightly different than our day-to-day marketing, but all of the branding elements are the same. So all the colors, all the fonts, everything. So it's still all very cohesive. And think about your marketing timelines around your production and delivery schedules because it will keep your messaging relevant and it will keep it manageable. And I know it feels like when you're running a business, there's always like, a million and one things to do, and it feels like you're always playing catch up, but it's a good idea, especially if you're going to do anything seasonal, to give yourself plenty of time. Like start thinking of it way, way, way before it seems like you should need to because it sneaks up on you. So some next steps are to think about reviewing your current brand and your marketing materials. So I know a lot of times, when we start a business and resources are limited, we do the best we can. And luckily, there are a lot of great resources available now that there weren't many years ago, right? So even like Canva has a lot of great assets to create like color palettes and different like font kits and different things to help with a brand. But think about it. Think about with your logo and your brand and all of that. Take a look at it and see, does it feel like it matches up with where you want to go? Or is this something that maybe now is the time to start thinking about investing in a rebrand? Like if you really are wanting to go gung ho, especially with some specialty products into retailers, is it time to up level the brand for all of that? And then also look at your marketing materials. Are they cohesive? Can you tell that it's the same brand all throughout? Or do they look a little bit disjointed? And this is something that I would encourage you if you are, if you have other friends that are also in business or you're part of any like networking groups or communities or anything, you can get together and you can help each other. Ask some trusted friends who will be honest and can go through this with you. Is always a really really good idea because sometimes we're just really too close to our own stuff in our business. Then also, once you've done that, you can know what you are missing from that wholesale toolkit, right? So once you've done the audit, you'll know what needs to be upgraded, what needs to be added in, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can create a short-term plan to fill those gaps before you start pitching to, potential buyers, potential wholesale partners. And I also want to encourage you to start small with this, right? Because it, much like with a lot of things in business, especially if you're doing it solo, it can feel very overwhelming, especially if you think, oh no, I have to do like all of these projects before I can do any of this. That's not true at all. Uh, Start small, start with what you can. And then, make a plan, put some like uh, you know, time frames on different parts of the plan, and then gradually start to upgrade or as you have, funds available, work with professionals who can help you to do these different parts and pieces so it's not all on your plate. And again, depending on who you are going to be potentially partnering with, you may not even need all of these things immediately either. So that is where it's important to, that very, very first step, think about who is it that you want to be selling to in the first place. Uh, I do have a resource as well. It is the wholesale readiness checklist. This is totally free. And this is going to help you to remember some of the things that I spoke about today. And it's also going to help you think through some of the like market research and the prep and all of that. And then lastly, if you ever want to talk to us, you can look or, look at any of the things that we do, or we actually have tons and tons and tons of other free, really high quality marketing resources. You can go to localfoodmarketing.com. If you go to the resources page, that's where all of the other free marketing resources are. There's also, you can see like different services we do, different examples of past work. And there's a place where you can submit a marketing inquiry form. And then you'll be able to chat with a member of our team. But this is also my direct email. You can reach out anytime if you have some additional questions, maybe something you forgot to ask today, or if you're watching on a replay later. But yeah, definitely reach out. There's no cost at all to connect with us. And we really just love to be as helpful as possible. Because again, we know that marketing can feel really scary. It can feel really daunting. And especially as you think about go like scaling up your business where you have a little less like direct control over that end user sales process, it can feel extra challenging, but we are here to help and we're always happy to chat. So I'll stop sharing and then um, happy to answer any questions that anyone has for sure. And please do not be shy because, um, oh yeah, okay, great question. Any guidelines for pricing on wholesale versus retail? Yeah, so I would say it can kind of depend. And this is where, as you are doing some of that market research, uh, there are going to be some places that will likely just kind of tell you, like, this is the price that I can pay, right? They'll sort of let you know, like, hey, this is the price that I would be able to give you for this. The first thing I would say that is absolutely imperative for you so that you have a viable business going forward is know your own numbers. So know what you need to be making, like at a minimum, so that you are covering all your costs and everything. And then what you would want to get paid, wholesale versus retail on that product. And I think it's also totally fine to have a range. So, interestingly enough, last weekend I took the train over from where I am in Michigan to Chicago and I went to a couple stationery stores and I ended up inadvertently buying the same card at two different places. And when I got home, I must have really loved this birthday card. Um, I realized that one place had sold it for 99 cents more. So obviously that vendor had a like wholesale, like a recommended like retail price for the shop, but one chose to sell it for 99 cents more, right? So in that instance, like there is generally a little bit of wiggle room, right? Because the end retailer, based on a variety of factors, might be able to sell your product for a little bit more or a little bit less, depending on who they are, their clientele, what they're going to be using it for, et cetera, right? So, what I would recommend is, yeah, first know your pricing, know the minimum of what you need to be charging on any product so that you have a viable business going forward and make sure you include your own time and like labor in that as well, which I know can feel tricky. Then think about like what you want to be charging retail and wholesale, and it's okay if those are kind of ranges. And then as you are doing that market research to figure out, who your ideal buyers are, you can also get curious and ask questions about like, hey, this is my, my like wholesale price. Would that work for you? And you can start at that higher price to see, because they might say, oh, sure. Yeah, that absolutely. Or they might be like, no, I actually can't do that. And then you could do a little negotiation back and forth and see like, would they land somewhere in the middle of your range or on like the lower end of your range? And of course, if they can't even meet the lower end of your range, it's like it's not going to be a good fit, right? So I hope that helps. I know it's hard when like the answer is not like 30% or 20%, but I think it can vary, right? Because it can also depend on what you are wanting the wholesale to be, right? So if you want to supply a local school and they have like a subsidy program, like a 10 cents a meal or something, and you want that to help supplement some of your income, and you don't need to be doing any extra like fancy marketing type stuff for it, and you're willing to take a little bit lower, price point for it just to get excess sold like in your local community, you might be like, that's great. I feel good about that. Or it could be something that is much more specialty that you're like, no, 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 I need this for wholesale, and I recommend that you sell it at this price for resale and make sure that they are able to get a good enough margin to make it worth their while too. Anything else? Any other questions? Um, and I know when I had my farm, my venture into wholesale, I was very like, I just eased my way into it. There was just a few local restaurants, and how I literally started was just, I knew they purchased stuff locally, and I didn't have a lot that I grew. So I was like, I had greens and I had herbs, and sometimes I had like snap peas, and snow peas. So I was like, if I have extra from the farmer's market, would you take them? And I had a couple that said yes. And I actually had one that was like, they wanted me to grow one specialty crop for them. They were a Vietnamese restaurant. And I said, sure. And then we just agreed on a price for that. And I grew it. And then there were like two others that would take stuff if I had extra. It was very relaxed, and it worked for me at the time because again, I didn't have a ton extra. I was a one woman show. And I just really didn't want to have all that waste. So that, that worked. So there's a whole spectrum here of what you could do for wholesale, of course.
Thank you so much, Erica.